Okay, now I'm recording, so let me continue. I just wanted to make sure that we're recording for students who aren't able to be here today. Okay, so this is aimed for freshmen, sophomore, and juniors. It's really important for you guys to get experience before you start applying to these post-grad jobs. So if you want to work in research, I would start off by being a research assistant. So there are lots of research labs here at Rutgers. You can reach out to professors or even look at summer research internships that are available, which I'm going to be providing links for later on. There is on the School of Arts and Sciences website, there's a list of the professors on campus and the kind of research that they conduct. So just really go through that and read about the research that they're doing. And if you like it or are interested, you can reach out and ask if they're taking any research assistants during the semester for the summer. You can at a clinical lab or a group therapy center. You can also contact a therapist and ask if you can shadow. This is how you get experience to see if you really feel passionate about this type of work. There's also a fieldwork and psychology course here at Rutgers. And I know that there's an opportunity where you can even give like a group therapy setting, work in like a group therapy setting. So that gives you experience already with working in the clinical field, which is really good for your resume for when you start applying to these postgrad jobs. You can also contact people in the field that you're interested in working with, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a researcher. It can be like a sports psychologist or an occupational therapist. Like for example, we don't have sports psychology or occupational therapy programs here at Rutgers, but you can contact people that are already working in this field and ask if you can shadow. You know, some people might not be able to, but some are really welcoming. Like I contacted an occupational therapist recently and she's allowing me to shadow one of her sessions so I can see like how I feel about it. So don't be shy when it comes to most people are very friendly because they know how difficult it is to be able to get experience, especially in like therapy and stuff. If you're interested in therapy, there's a psychology and rehabilitation program here at Rutgers-Newark. It's combined with the School of Health Professions, and you would first do your prerequisites the first 2 years at Rutgers, and then you would transfer to the School of Health Professions. But this program is really good if you're interested in doing clinical work because it gives you actual experience where you do, I believe it's 135 hours, and you do therapy and you have that experience. I think you get a type of licensing, but it's really good if you want to continue and go and do like a master's program, or even if you want to work, you're able to get a job as with being supervised during the therapy. So it basically guarantees you a job when you graduate or an opportunity to be able to continue your studies and get a master's. So if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, if you're a sophomore or junior, I highly recommend you get experience before you start applying to these jobs when you're a senior. And here I provided some links that have clinical internship opportunities. So I'm just gonna click on one so we can go through them quickly. So as you can see, for clinical internships, they're very difficult to get any kind of clinical work because of ethical reasons, and you need licensing to give therapy. But there are, a lot of research labs where you can work with clinical research. So you can work with research labs that are studying things like anxiety, PTSD, depression, and that gives you a step into seeing what it's like to work with that kind of population and that rhythm. So there's a bunch here. There's some lab manager ones, which would be for like people that are that have a bachelor's already, but there's also some research assistant ones for the summer. So I would definitely check that out. And we're going to be providing the PowerPoint afterwards if you guys want to see. So sorry, if you guys want to see those links. There's also, I have another link here for research internship opportunities, and this is on the American Psychological Association website. There's a bunch of universities that have research fellowships, that have research internships. And these are really good because you get to work really close with a principal investigator in the lab and kind of work on a project that they're doing, and it's very independent. So not only do you get to network, but you get to be exposed to things that are going to help you build your knowledge and your skills when you apply to jobs when you graduate, and if you decide to apply to PhD programs. I also provided a list of paid internships, and these are clinical. Well, most of these were due, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you still have some time. There's like some due in March. Well, most of these are due in March. And there's like summer internships on here. There's research labs, and these are all paid. I think the ones here are paid as well, but I found a survey like that too, so I thought that would be helpful. Okay, so now we're going to look at those who are graduating this May and are interested in clinical postgrad opportunities. Now, if you don't have experience, it's very difficult to get into like a clinical research job, just because those do require, like being a clinical researcher, do require experience. But if you don't have experience, I would recommend you start by volunteering at a group facility center or get a job at the facility, because the people that work there can essentially mentor you into taking the right steps. And by you starting here, you can start working your way up in the ladder. Okay, you can start working your way up in the ladder to see the following steps that you need to take. If you do have experience, whether it's in research or fieldwork in psychology, I would highly recommend applying to the clinical research labs as being a research assistant, or if you did the psych and rehabilitation program, you can do supervised therapy. But if you do have research experience, and you want to work in clinical settings, I would highly recommend for you to apply to the clinical research assistant or lab manager jobs. And I did provide a link here. It has a list of jobs that are available now that you can apply for, that I believe should be starting in the summer. But there's a bunch, and there's like labs that are studying PTSD, labs that are studying anxiety, things like that. So there's handful here. And research is really important if you want to continue your studies and move on to graduate school. Even if you want your career to be focused on therapy and more clinical, it doesn't hurt to get research experience, because it does give you skills that you're going to need no matter what job you end up working in the future. Okay. So so now I want to go over the project coordinator, lab manager jobs that are available to those who are graduating this May or graduating with a bachelor's in psychology. So as a lab manager, you essentially get the experience of what it's like being a graduate student, because you're responsible for collecting data from participants, training RAs, budgeting, IRB protocols. You're not taking the classes, but you're going to be doing a lot of work in the lab. And for this job, research experience is required, and it helps your resume. It helps you be a strong applicant for PhD programs, because you've worked with data, with research, with organizing research. Just makes you a strong candidate. So I highly recommend, if you do want to obtain a PhD in psychological research, whether it's social psych, cognitive, developmental, I highly recommend applying for these jobs, or research assistant jobs as well. Because with the research assistant jobs, you do need, to be a full-time research assistant, you do need research experience beforehand, but you also do things like collect data from participants, budgeting, you analyze data and things like that. So I provided some links here as well if you're interested in applying for postgraduate research positions. These have lab manager positions, research assistant positions, and they're very up to date. Like, they just posted yesterday some positions. So definitely recommend checking that out if that's something you're interested in. There's also some more links here. So this gives you tips on how to find the job and like things. It highlights a bunch of important information when you're applying for these jobs. And then there's some more jobs on here. So there's a lot to look at. That's something you guys are interested in. Okay, so now I want to dive into opportunities for those who aren't thinking of graduate school or really academics in psychology, because there are some jobs available. Well, there are a handful of jobs available for those with a bachelor's degree in psychology. So you can be a behavioral health technician, a career counselor, you can work in academic advising, a case manager, and we provided a link here with the full list of jobs you can have now that you're graduating. And if you guys are sophomores or juniors and you don't want to go into research or clinical psychology, I highly recommend checking this out, because let's say that you want to be like a preschool teacher or even an elementary school teacher, you might want to minor in something that'll help you be a strong candidate for this kind of job. So this website just goes over how your psychology degree can help you with that. We also wanted to mention the master's programs and licensing, because if you want to practice therapy, you cannot do it with just a bachelor's degree in psychology. You do have to get a master's. So if that's something that you're thinking about applying to a master's program, it's important that you have experience before, whether it's volunteering, doing field work in psychology at Rutgers-Newark. Getting some type of clinical hours is really important for your resume when you're applying to these programs, or getting the experience after you graduate before you apply to these master's programs. Because you do need an LPC in order to be a licensed therapy in the United States. So we provided a link here on the steps that you need to get this licensing, well, for New Jersey, because it varies within state. So it's important to also consider where you want to do your master's and what state, because it varies throughout all the states in the US. So we're not sure. There is the Career Development Center. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it on campus. So they assist in editing people's resumes, their cover letters. They help with interview prep. They help you find jobs. They have a platform called Handshake now. And on Handshake, there's a bunch of post-grad jobs and even internships for those who aren't graduating yet. I would definitely recommend to check that out. If you go on the Career Development Center's website, you can find templates for resumes and cover letters. And those are things that you guys are going to need if you're applying to an internship. They're going to ask for a resume and a cover letter. Even if you're applying to a post-grad job, now that you're graduating in May, you're going to have to submit a cover letter and a resume. So I would highly recommend checking them out, because they have really good templates that kind of tell you what to list on your resume, how to describe it. It's important to think about font, past tense, how big things are, not making it bigger than a page. And then for the cover letter too, it's important to keep your cover letter concise and each paragraph talking about certain something. It's kind of like you're telling a story instead of like jumping all over the place. So I definitely recommend checking them out, because they have really helpful templates on how to fill those things out. If you guys are interested in going into academia with your bachelor's degree in psychology, I would highly recommend checking out academic Twitter. There's always posts on there about research assistant positions, about lab manager positions. A lot of people like to post things about their labs, like academic Twitter for psychology is really trending right now. It's really up there, so definitely look that up as well. And that's all that I have for today. Now, oh, sorry. Okay, so I can take questions now.